Spiders just really creep me out. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. I'm going to be talking a lot about the new episode of Doctor Who Season 11, Episode 4, Arachnids in the UK. This episode creeped me out a whole lot, but before I get into this episode, I'm going to do a little quick recap on what happened in the last episode. So we left off, it was kind of a one-off episode where it centered a lot around Rosa Parks and the big event that happened where she refused to stand for a white man on the bus and kind of causing the end to segregation in the United States. Great episode, really powerful, absolutely loved it. I did have a little bit of an issue with the villain throughout. Krasko, I believe was his name. He just seemed too easily defeated, didn't feel like he had much of a storyline throughout, but I have a feeling that he will be coming back probably in the big finale along with Tim Shaw or the rest of the Stenza and some other things that I have talked about in other previous episode reviews. If you want to check them out, there's a playlist up there. But for this episode, I'll give you a little quick spoiler-free rundown of the episode and some initial thoughts before going into some spoiler stuff. So in this episode, the Doctor, Graham, Ryan, and Yaz finally make it back to Sheffield. They're only 30 minutes after they left when they were kind of sucked out through space and time from the warehouse, and it's very surprising. But they also find, once they arrive back, they are really close to Yaz's apartment, so they go meet her family, and they find that there are giant spiders invading the city. And Mr. Big from Sex and the City plays a very big role in this, and I think it is hilarious in probably the worst way possible. It is, I hate his character. I love to hate his character, but I didn't realize who he was. He looked really familiar to me, so I had to look up who he was, and yeah, that's the only reason I know he's Mr. Big from Sex and the City. His part is really funny to me. It's hilarious, and if you have seen this, I'll tell you all my thoughts on his role in the spoiler section. Quick thoughts on this, it was okay. It's a very much one-off episode. I enjoyed it for the most part, besides the fact that it was based around giant spiders, and I'm not a huge fan of spiders or just insects in general, so it was a little hard for me to sit through with all the spiders, but I got through it. We're fine now. So from this point forward, there will be
spoilers.
Like I said before, do not like spiders or insects, so throughout this entire episode, it is based around giant spiders. They're like the size of a small dog or a cat. They're probably even bigger than like my cat. She's pretty big too. Like the spiders were about maybe this big. Huge. Too big. And there's even one that's like huge. It would probably fill up an entire room. It's a big spider. I think Graham compares it to the size of a bus, which is big, and considering Graham loves to compare everything or do anything bus related, that's a great comparison for it from Graham, but it was a very large spider. So again, had trouble with that part. The whole thing with the spiders, how they came about, is a little bit different than what we have seen from a lot of stuff in this season so far. They do some of these episodes throughout each season that are more sciencey related versus more outer spacey episodes, I guess you would call them. This one is basically just a science experiment from humans gone wrong, making these well, not only the science experiment gone wrong, because I don't think that necessarily the science experiment went wrong, it was more of the way Mr. Big's character's company handled the disposal of these science experiments. So, I mean, I guess it's technically a science experiment gone wrong, but it's not something like alien or outer space related that is making these spiders grow big, which is something I thought it would be at the beginning. But I do like having this more science theme, like it's more of a human error than something outer space related, and the Doctor already knows a little bit about what she's facing versus having to learn from a third party that is living on Earth about what they're facing. And probably my favorite character in this episode, which is, I feel like, such a bad thing to say because he's such a horrible character, he's so bad, is Mr. Big's character. He is basically a caricature, I can never say that word right. He is basically this version of President Trump. It's, oh, it's really bad. Like, they make so many comparisons to the president. He owns hotels. He runs a whole lot of businesses. He's a very shady guy. I mean, I don't want to get too political in here, but I think that really sums up my thoughts on the current president of the United States. But this character that Mr. Big plays is very much that. They make a remark on the fact that he doesn't like the current president, which is kind of weird because I believe this was filmed last year. So the current president would still have been president back then. But I don't know why he would dislike the president, because the current president is everything that he is. And by the way, he's playing an American character in the UK, so that's why I'm talking about the president. But he is going to be running for president of the United States. So it kind of boggled my mind a little bit onto why he would hate the current president, because he basically is the current president unless they were talking about President Obama. But I still love to hate his character. He just felt like Alec Baldwin on Saturday Night Live levels of just comedy, plus I feel like in some instances this guy could look and sound a little bit like Alec Baldwin, which I think maybe propelled the idea in my mind that he was playing a bit of a caricature on President Trump. Or maybe he was just playing off of Alec Baldwin. And later on, there's a scene with him and the 4 women of the group while Graham and Ryan are out catching a spider, but the 4 women are very much in charge, and it was really nice to see these 4 really strong women just pushing past him to get to the bottom of what they were investigating, just kind of ignoring everything he was saying, everything he was telling them to stop doing. And it's a really great through line throughout the season. Just kind of a big theme throughout the season is strong women, especially between Yaz and the doctor. They did it really well with Grace in the first episode. I don't remember her name in the second episode, but she was one of the people doing the trials, and in the third episode they of course had Rosa Parks. So it's just really great for me to see them having this through line of really strong women. Absolutely love it. And in the end, the companions all decide that they want to stay with the doctor rather than live their lives here on Earth. And you kind of start to get their reasons why they want to go. And it does line up a little bit with the predictions that I had for them. Yaz definitely wants something bigger. Ryan just doesn't want to be working in the warehouse anymore, which I think is also his way of saying he wants more out of his life as well. And Graham just doesn't want to be stuck at home mourning the loss of his wife, which also I think means that he wants more out of his life as well. I don't think I necessarily made that connection with him or that prediction with him, but it still kind of lines up with the fact of he wants to maybe expand his horizons, and you feel Graham expanding his horizons throughout this episode. And more so in this, you see that he has really kind of come out of his very, I don't know what the word would be for that, his negative shell, I guess. But he is really kind of opening up to the doctor and his adventures with her. With this episode though, we do get a whole lot more backstory of the companions, although I do feel like it is a little bit slow in giving it to us. I understand the fact of giving it to us gradually over episodes, but there are some relationships like the one between Yaz and Ryan that kind of confuse me a little bit, and I would love to know a lot more about their relationship. I feel like they're just kind of slacking on that bit a little, but we get to see a lot more into Yaz's family life, how they kind of are just not dragging her down, but they do make fun of her a little bit. She's kind of like maybe the black sheep of the family, or just not as accomplished as she or they would like her to be. Or maybe they just find the fact that she's a police officer not as like big. I don't know the correct term. I don't know the word I'm looking for there, but they just maybe don't like the fact that she's a police officer. They want bigger and better things for her, just like she wants for herself, but she likes being a police officer. We also get to see a lot more of Graham coping with Grace's passing and the relationship building between Graham and Ryan, which I absolutely loved. I love seeing their relationship grow. And one last thing before I get to my theories and favorite moment of the episode, there was a quote that Graham said to Mr. Big's character that I felt just kind of summed up the doctor as a whole. And it was basically Graham saying to Mr. Big, "Word of advice, mate, run now, ask questions later." I feel like that has been said at least once in every single season of Doctor Who, or something to that effect, because it's just a quintessential Doctor Who thing. It's just the Doctor, you follow the Doctor wherever they go, and you just kind of run and ask questions later, which this quote coming from Graham is a big thing because he is always the one that is asking questions. Usually he's always the one being like, is this a good idea? Should we be doing this? And I just loved seeing him say that. Kind of just go with the flow, go with what the Doctor's doing, ask questions later, especially later on or earlier in the episode. But sometime in the episode, the companions all point out that the Doctor's the one in charge, and Mr. Big is not super fond of that. Very good, especially on the strong woman front. Some theories for this episode. Don't really have many because this felt like more of a one-off episode that I don't think will have a through line into the season finale or other parts of this season like the first 3 episodes have so far, or probably have, unless Mr. Big's character decides to come back because he kind of just left. Didn't really have anything to do. So this was just, you know, kind of a normal Doctor Who episode and not something that really carries through to the end of the season. And finally, my favorite moment of the episode is kind of just a little background. It's nothing like super big, but I just started laughing as soon as I saw it. There is a scene when they are in the laboratory where the Doctor and Jade are looking at this big map, and you're kind of seeing the Doctor and Jade from the map's perspective, and in the background you see Ryan just making shadow puppets on the wall, looking at spiders, and I just thought it was so funny just to see him doing this weird background stuff while they're talking that really had nothing to do with the episode. Just super funny. But I think that is everything I have for Arachnids in the UK. If you liked this episode, let me know in the comments down below what was your favorite part of this episode. If you didn't like it, tell me why. I'd love to know, because I enjoyed this. It's probably not my favorite of the season, but I did have fun. I don't think I have disliked a single episode so far. I don't think I've ever disliked a single episode. So let me know your favorite moment in this episode or your favorite episode of this season so far. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!